46. The Sisters. His Excellency the Grand Secretary Mao came from an obscure family in the district of Ye, his father being only a poor cowherd. At the same place there resided a wealthy gentleman named Chang who owned a burial ground in the neighborhood, and someone informed him that while passing by he had heard sounds of wrangling from within the grave, and voices saying, "Make haste and go away, do not disturb His Excellency's home." Chang did not much believe this, but subsequently he had several dreams in which he was told that the burial ground in question really belonged to the Ma family, and that he had no right whatever to it. From this moment the affairs of his house began to go wrong, and at length he listened to the remonstrances of friends and removed his dead elsewhere. One day Mao's father, the cowherd, was out near this burial ground when, a storm of rain coming on, he took refuge in the now empty grave, while the rain came down harder than ever, and by flooded the whole place and drowned the old man. The Grand Secretary was then a mere boy, and his mother went off to Cheng to beg a piece of ground wherein to bury her dead husband. When Cheng heard her name he was greatly astonished, and on going to look at the spot where the old man was drowned found that it was exactly at the proper place for the coffin. More than ever amazed, he gave orders that the body should be buried there in the old grave, and also bade Mao's mother bring her son to see him. When the funeral was over, she went with Mao to Mr. Chang's house to thank him for his kindness, and so pleased was he with the boy that he kept him to be educated, ranking him as one of his own sons. He also said he would give him his eldest daughter as a wife, an offer which Mao's mother hardly dared accept, but Mrs. Chang said that the thing was settled and couldn't be altered, so then she was obliged to consent. The young lady, however, had a great contempt for Mao and made no effort to disguise her feelings, and if anyone spoke to her of him, she would put her fingers in her ears, declaring she would die sooner than marry the cowboy. On the day appointed for the wedding, the bridegroom arrived and was feasted within, while outside the door a handsome chair was in waiting to convey away the bride, who all this time was standing crying in a corner, wiping her eyes with her sleeve, and absolutely refusing to dress. Just then the bridegroom sent in to say he was going, and the drums and trumpets struck up the wedding march, at which the bride's tears only fell the faster as her hair hung disheveled down her back. Her father managed to detain Mao well, and went in to urge his daughter to make haste, she weeping bitterly as if she did not hear what he was saying. He now got into a rage, which only made her cry the louder, and in the middle of it all a servant came to say the bridegroom wished to take his leave. The father ran out and said his daughter wasn't quite ready, begging Ma to wait a little longer, and then hurried back again to the bride. Thus they went on for some time, backwards and forwards, until at last things began to look serious, for the young lady obstinately refused to yield, and Chang was ready to commit suicide for want of anything better. Just then his second daughter was standing by upbraiding her elder sister for her disobedience, when suddenly the latter turned round in a rage and cried out, "So you are imitating the rest of them, you little minx? Why don't you go and marry him yourself? My father did not betroth me to Mr. Mao," answered she, "but if he had, I should not require you to persuade me to accept him." Her father was delighted with this reply, and at once went off and consulted with his wife as to whether they could venture to substitute the second for the elder. And then her mother came and said to her, "That bad girl there won't obey her parents' commands. We wish, therefore, to put you in her place. Will you consent to this arrangement?" The younger sister readily agreed, saying that had they told her to marry a beggar she would not have dared to refuse, and that she had not such a low opinion of Mr. Mao as all that. Her father and mother rejoiced exceedingly at receiving this reply, and dressing her up in her sister's clothes, put her in the bridal chair and sent her off. She proved an excellent wife, and lived in harmony with her husband, but she was troubled with a disease of the hair, which caused Mr. Mao some annoyance. Later on, she told him how she had changed places with her sister, and this made him think more highly of her than before. Soon after, Mao took his bachelor's degree and then set off to present himself as a candidate for the master's degree. On the way, he passed by an inn, the landlord of which had dreamt the night before that a spirit appeared to him and said, "Tomorrow, Mr. Mao, first on the list, will come. Someday he will extricate you from a difficulty." Accordingly, the landlord got up early and took a special note of all guests who came from the eastward, until at last Mao himself arrived. The landlord was very glad to see him and provided him with the best of everything, refusing to take any payment for it all, but telling what he had dreamt the night before. Mao now began to give himself airs, and reflecting that his wife's want of hair would make him look ridiculous, he determined that as soon as he attained to rank and power he would find another spouse. But alas, when the successful list of candidates was published, Mao's name was not among them, and he retraced his steps with a heavy heart and by another road, so as to avoid meeting the innkeeper. 3 years afterwards, he went up again, and the landlord received him with precisely the same attentions as on the previous occasion, upon which Mao said to him, "Your former words did not come true. I am now ashamed to put you to so much trouble." "Oh," replied the landlord, "you meant to get rid of your wife, and the ruler of the world below struck out your name. My dream couldn't have been false." In great astonishment, Mao asked what he meant by these words, and then he learnt that after his departure the landlord had had a second dream informing him of the above facts. Mao was much alarmed at what he heard, and remained as motionless as a wooden image, until the landlord said to him, "You, sir, as a scholar, should have more self-respect, and you will certainly take the highest place." By and by, when the list came out, Mao was the first of all, and almost simultaneously his wife's hair began to grow quite thick, making her much better looking than she had hitherto been. Now her elder sister had married a rich young fellow of good family, who lived in the neighborhood, which made the young lady more contemptuous than ever. But he was so extravagant and so idle that their property was soon gone, and they were positively in want of food. Hearing, too, of Mr. Mao's success at the examination, she was overwhelmed with shame and vexation, and avoided even meeting her sister in the street. Just then her husband died, and left her destitute, and about the same time Mao took his doctor's degree, which so aggravated her feelings that, in a passion, she became a nun. Subsequently, when Mao rose to be a high officer of state, she sent a novice to his yamen to try and get a subscription out of him for the temple, and Mao's wife, who gave several pieces of silk and other things, secretly inserted a sum of money among them. The novice, not knowing this, reported what she had received to the older sister, who cried out in a passion, "I wanted money to buy food with. Of what use are these things to me?" So she bade the novice take them back, and when Mao and his wife saw her return, they suspected what had happened, and opening the parcel found the money still there. They now understood why the presents had been refused, and taking the money, Mao said to the novice, "If 100 ounces of silver is too much luck for your mistress to secure." Of course, she could never have secured a high official, such as I am now, for her husband. He then took 50 ounces, and giving them to the novice, sent her away, adding, "Hand this to your mistress. I'm afraid more would be too much for her." The novice returned and repeated all that had been said, and then the elder sister sighed to think what a failure her life had been, and how she had rejected the worthy to accept the worthless. After this, the innkeeper got into trouble about a case of murder and was imprisoned, but Mao exerted his influence and obtained the man's pardon.
Thanks for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more excellent content.